Hello, what's up, everybody? The LPL comes back on Friday. So before Friday, I figured it would be best to put together some kind of like team changes, power rankings, talk about each team a little bit, maybe do some positional rankings. So I'm not sure how many of those things I'll get to, but today we're going to start with a quick reminder on how things ended in the last season and what that means the public will be thinking going into Friday. Without breaking down Friday, because I'll be breaking down Friday in tomorrow's video. So, a few things to touch on. Victory 5. I guess we can just do it in order. So let's do it in order. So Bilibili Gaming. Last season, Bilibili Gaming was not a great team. They were middle of the pack. They were 7-9, and there were a lot of teams that were 7-9, 8-8, 9-7 in their series score. Kingen and ADD went back and forth, or I think it went from ADD to Kingen. I guess it did go back and forth. So I guess this was a coronavirus situation. I don't remember exactly. Meteor is not someone who is an exceptional jungler, but by the end of the season, he started playing champions that I'm somewhat interested in. So we have a Kindred game, we have a Graves game, we have Elise. Those are pretty good champions, and in China at that point, I think those were good champions to be playing. We also see a Galio game, a bunch of Kalista, Set, but this was against V5. LGD, bad loss, beat Top Esports, the eventual runner-up. So I think overall we're not going to be expecting much from Bilibili Gaming. Overall, let's just get this over here. All right, so that is Bilibili Gaming plus 5,400. Basically, what the sportsbook is saying is that they don't have a chance. Not that they don't have a chance. It's very unlikely for them to win. So, what has changed for Bilibili Gaming since the end of the season? Since the end of the season, they had Jin Zhao, their starting AD carry, go from the AD carry to support. It's unclear whether or not he's going to be the starting support. They brought up their 80... Oh, God. This guy has blue hair. Watch out. They brought up their 80 carry from their academy team. So I know absolutely nothing about that guy. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, was the bot lane the issue, or is this AD carry just like out of control good? And like I said, I don't know. So good things that I'm taking away from looking at this is they ended the season very strong. They won 4 of their last 5 series. So they're probably a little underrated in general because of everyone's going to look at their series score for the entire season as opposed to looking at the end of the season or like what kind of patch they were playing on. So in the first few weeks, I could see Bilibili Gaming winning a few series or at least keeping them close, which is a good thing to keep in mind. I don't know who their starting jungler is going to be. 13 EST 16, so maybe that's like best 16. I don't know, some weird kind of leet speak going on, or Meteor. So if they go from Meteor to best, I think that would be bad for their winning chances in the beginning of the season, because we want that champion pool to include Kindred, Graves, those kinds of champions. So changed AD carry from Jin Zhao. I don't know how to spell it. To... Oh, it's right there. Jin Zhao to Wings. From Academy. Brought up another jungler, but current jungler plays strong champs for this meta. Okay. So 5400 plus 5400, I'm probably not making that bet. I think that in this split we have a few teams that underperformed last split. I would look to those teams to potentially win before a team like Bilibili Gaming. But like I said, they could win a few early matches as long as jungler can play carry meta. So if 13S16 is the starter for one of their first matches, I am not going to have any idea how good of a team they are on this patch. Next up is Dominus. So Dominus last season was 6-10. They had some good matchups last season. So Xie left. Xie was pretty good. I know that some like DraftKings players preferred one of their mid laners over the other. I think because of like their ability to carry the game. Well, they preferred them because it was like higher DraftKings scores, but I think they preferred Xiaowei over Xie, if I am remembering correctly. So again, let's take a look at some of the champion pools, specifically in the jungle. So I see no carry champions except for Nidalee. That's not good. So Helper is added to the main roster. So Helper is going to be the new AD carry. Gallo was their old AD carry. So let's do Gala to Helper. No idea who Helper is. Xie left. And then Xiaowei name changed to Twila. Jungler doesn't play the carry champions. So early season, probably a team to target for probably a team to choose players against in DraftKings and bet against in general. They're plus 8,600. I will not be betting on Dominus. Okay, so at the end of the season, they were playing some Wukong games, and they were one of the teams making Wukong look like a horrible champion. I don't think Wukong is horrible, but I don't think it's a very good pro pick right now. Okay, so Xinyi left. That was not one of their starting junglers. Jinnu left, allowing Audi to play more. Audi will probably continue to be the starter. Jai Jai and Junjia, Scout in the mid lane, Hope and BBD. So BBD is new. Audi. Okay, Jai Jai. Junjia moved to starting roster. So GG Jai Jai, not positive. I forget what I used to say. I forget how I used to pronounce his name. He will probably be the starting jungler, I think. So Audi, Jai Jai, Scout, Hope, and Mako. So they do have some okay players. It's a lot more like name recognition and like history with them. So they're probably overvalued. let's go to the match history. So we have Junjia on Graves. Without seeing anything else, this is going to be another team that I'm against. So right now they're plus 1,500. Why are they plus 1,500? Am I missing something? Okay, so BBD rejoins Academy roster. So it's going to be Hope. Hope's a relatively good... I mean, Hope is a good enough player. Scout is a good enough player, but he's kind of a legacy player. Well, actually, he's not a legacy player. He is kind of a legacy player, isn't he? Oh, he's from T1. From 2015. And he has been on the team for a while. Okay, so, I mean, I don't think that they should be 1,500, so EDG is probably another team I'm going to be betting against. Doesn't play carry junglers. Doesn't focus on carry junglers. Team has a lot of name recognition. The problem is there may be more name recognition from like people who actually pay attention to League of Legends as opposed to professional bettors or DraftKings players. So maybe I'm overestimating how important the name recognition is. I just don't understand why they'd be plus 1,500 when there are a lot of other teams that seemed to be trending in the right direction. I feel like I'm missing something here. But my gut is saying fade. Fade until we have more info or they are in an advantageous position. Matchup. So when I go through their match history, it's not only about seeing the carry champions, because theoretically they could learn the carry champions, but it's also like in the future, if they weren't playing the correct things in the past, why should I assume they're going to be playing the correct champions in the future? That's a question I have for you. Next up is E-Star. So E-Star was an overachiever last season. Where did Fen come from? He was a backup on some team, right? On LGD. Yeah, so he didn't even play all the time. I mean, that's a side grade, if anything. I mean, he didn't play very well. Alright, so let's take a look at the match history. Okay, so they were in the playoffs. They did really well in the beginning of the split. I'm not seeing a ton of carry performances from the jungler. I'm not seeing anything special from the mid lane. I see Wukong. I don't like Wukong, so I feel like that's another spot where, like, if I think they were playing the wrong champions in the past, they could easily play the wrong champions in the future. This game, they're red side, and they let Graves through, so that's another question mark. Letting the other team play Kindred is a question mark. So maybe E-Star just wasn't... Let's fade them too. Overrated based on last season. Crying to Fen is a side grade. I mean, there's nothing I saw last season that would make me think it's an upgrade, so I'll just say side grade until I am proven otherwise. Overrated based on last season. Crying to Fen is a side grade. Didn't end last split well. Dominated by World Elite in the playoffs. So they're the kind of team that limped into the playoffs and then crashed out of the playoffs. And again, maybe that's because there was like it was like a bad meta for them. But this meta is pretty similar, so if I know they're going to be bad in the beginning of the season, then it makes me like them less overall, because I can't guess what the future patches are going to be like until I have information on them. Don't need to see fun. FPX. All right, now we're getting to a good team. So let's talk about FPX. So last year's world champions, the runner-up at the Mid-Season Cup. That's going to make players and bettors like Top Esports more than Fun Plus Phoenix. They didn't make any roster changes. Fun Plus Phoenix is plus 331. Top Esports is plus 195. Plus 331 is probably not enough money for me to get excited. Yeah, just not a bet that I'm going to make personally. Time is money, and if I'm gonna spend if I'm gonna put $100 on Fun Plus Phoenix to win the split, then I have to wait like 3 months to make 331. 300% in 3 months is not hateful, but you'd have to kind of think it's like a sure thing. Not enough value there. So same roster, good team, and I think accurately priced for Summer Championship. No value. Okay. So in order for me to bet on Fun Plus Phoenix, it'd probably have to be like plus 500 so that I can justify my money being tied up for a longer period of time. There's a lot to like about Fun Plus Phoenix. I like a lot of their champion choices from the Mid-Season Cup. It was kind of questionable how they were picking in the finals against Top Esports, but they've played each other so much that there's probably other things they're taking into consideration that like we just don't have access to because of how they're like maybe they scrim each other as well. But overall, I like FPX. I think going into next split, they would probably be my favorite to win the split. It is kind of a toss-up between them and Top Esports. Both teams very good. The league seems kind of top-heavy right now, where a lot of the other teams are just not very good, or at least can't compete for a championship. So, don't need to spend much time on Fun Plus Phoenix. Invictus Gaming. So, Invictus Gaming, they had Leon leave, and then they started using Ning again. I don't think they have a new jungler other than their old jungler, Ning. They did not perform well in the Mid-Season Cup. Small sample size. I'm not too worried about it. I think that at plus 500, there's no way I'm going to bet on that. The best case scenario is they come out in the first few weeks, look horrible. Maybe you put money on them at that point. But I can't tie up $100 or a couple $100 on Invictus Gaming before the split starts, knowing there's the chance that the bottom falls out and they start like switching out other players, getting new players to try out for the team and stuff like that. Just not a spot that I'm going to be looking at. In terms of early season betting opportunities, I think they're going to be undervalued in their individual matchups, but for a futures bet, this isn't enough value because I think the books are afraid that Invictus Gaming rebounds hard, and if they rebound hard and they put a too high of a number, there's going to be a lot of people who like Invictus Gaming that are willing to put money on them for a futures bet at a higher number. So this seems like the sportsbook is afraid of Invictus Gaming and doesn't want to overexpose themselves. So popularity. So if the team is popular and eliminating the value, the sportsbook actually, so the sportsbook probably thinks they're slightly better than eStar, even though they are priced like they're much better than eStar. But like I said, I think that eStar is going in the opposite direction. I don't think eStar is going to be as good this split. Invictus Gaming, I think, will be somewhere at the top of the middle of the pack, so not really in the upper echelon of teams. I think it's pretty easy to see a separation between Top Esports, Fun Plus Phoenix, and JDG. I think that's how the public sees it. So I don't get any value by like rearranging the order or saying there's some kind of like dark horse team. Just from like an accuracy perspective, I think most people agree Top Esports, Fun Plus Phoenix, JDG are the teams with the best chance of winning the split. So that's basically that. JDG. All right, so JDG is a team I will be targeting opposing teams in DraftKings and on the betting markets. I don't think that they could I don't think that they are likely to replicate their success from the spring. I will be looking to bet against them every single week because the chances of going back to back in between spring, like regular season, spring, summer, or even the championships in the spring and the championships in the summer, it's just like it doesn't decrease your chances, but it's going to make everyone else want them to kind of repeat. So I will be betting against them early in the season, hoping that the lines are giving extra value to bet against JDG, because I think the house will be on the side of the team opposing JDG every matchup. So unless they're playing some really good teams in the beginning of the season, I haven't really I haven't looked closely at the schedule. That's the only way I could see myself not betting heavily against JDG. The beginning of the season is really where being a contrarian pays off over time, in my opinion. At least it has for me. Next up, LGD. So I like LGD. I'm a fan. So we have, oh my god, so many players. They have Garvey joined from the Academy roster, okay. Longshi joined from RNG. So he'll probably be the starter in the beginning of the season. So we have Longshi, Peanut, Shie, Yuki. So Shie and Yuki might be competing for the mid lane. I would assume that's the case. Then we have Kramer, who is not great, but can get the job done. He actually might be pretty good in the beginning of the season because Senna is going to be a strong champion again for the first few weeks, depending on what patch they're playing on. So that's an interesting spot. Kahlua, Mark. So Mark just came over. I don't know if he's the starter. I would guess that he is. So I'm a fan of LGD. I think that maybe I'm just biased. I don't think I love the plus 3,000 because once they get into the playoffs and they're competing against Fun Plus Phoenix, JDG, Top Esports, I think in a lot of these rounds they're going to be like a plus 400 or plus 500 anyways. So if I bet 100 to win 4 or 500, let's say it's 100 turns into 600, make that bet again. it would be plus. Actually, it'd be less. So if it was like 350, so it'd be $100 turns into 450, and then 450 turns into like 1200 or 1300 or 1200 or 1300, and I don't think I'd be making those kinds of bets. So would I get additional value here? I don't think I don't think there's a I just don't think there's a huge chance that they actually pull it off. That's kind of my problem. Is like there are too many scenarios where LGD gets into a good position late in the season in the regular season and the playoffs, and then they run into one of the top teams, and I don't see Peanut, Shie, Kramer beating any of the top teams. So in order for that to work, Long Shi coming over would have to like fundamentally change a team, and he's not really an incredible player. So let's look at this. Let's see. Aatrox, Silas, Vlad. I mean, they gave him a lot of opportunities to carry. Their team just fell apart at the end of the season. They were pretty good for a while. Mordekaiser, so Mordekaiser, GP. Quinn, that's not bad. Lucian. I just don't see him carrying them to a championship. So I really don't think they're like a championship contender. I do love Peanut though. So LGD, not betting on them to win the finals, but I will look to use them on DraftKings and bet on and bets on during the regular season. I do love Peanut. I love his play style. I think that it'll make them a very attractive underdog in a lot of spots, but I just can't. I don't see any value there. Like, this isn't like plus 3,000 is not a number where I go, oh my god, what a steal! Like, because it's really not. Seems unlikely they win. Very unlikely they win. LNG. Flandre, good player. Good player, okay. XX is okay, but he's not great. Maple's overrated by now. Light has taken over for Dwan, or Asura, I mean. Looks like they'll be playing with Dwan. So let's see. Stake is their head coach. Ugh. So they're another team that was bad on patch 10.6. They weren't playing the good champions, in my opinion. Like, banning Graves is always a... Oh, actually, that was on red side, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, that's a huge losing streak. And this is basically the team that they will be running out. So I do not have much confidence in LNG. LNG was second to last season, and they really didn't make many changes. So I'm probably not betting on them. Not betting on LNG or using in DraftKings unless there is a huge value spot. Team ended last season bad. We'll say poorly. And didn't make any significant upgrades. Also didn't... well, I don't really know if they read the last patch that well, but didn't really seem like it. So if it's LNG against a team like E-Star, maybe that's the kind of game that I want to look at. trust me, you're gonna watch some of these videos in the next few weeks, and you're gonna be like, "What is that guy smoking?" And then it'll be close, and you'll be like, "Ah, maybe he was right." It's inevitable. So OMG, they were pretty good by the end of the season. They were competitive with a lot of the good teams. So they were 7-9. They were another team in the middle of the pack. They weren't good for DraftKings, but that will just make teams. That'll just make players like them less. SMLZ icon hacker. So I forget what they looked like on the last patch. Another team just losing a lot. A lot of Trundle. Kindred. Don't see any Graves. Don't see any Graves. Don't see any Graves. Don't see any Graves. No Graves. Graves. So no Graves. No Kindred. No Nidalee. That's not a good sign. And that's not me saying I think that those champions will be the best champions on the next patch. It's just they were very good champions on the previous patch, and they weren't playing them, so it makes me question the coaching staff. Like, why didn't you guys like them? So, didn't have a good read on the last patch. No upgrades for the team. Probably lower third. Bottom half. Probably a bottom half. I'm fine with that. All right, Rogue Warriors, another team that I like. Sip of water. All right, so I love Haro. I think that a full season of Haro is going to be pretty good. Wuming coming doesn't matter. Yudang. Let's see where he came from. I mean, if they're picking up another jungler and they already have Haro, that's interesting. That's interesting. I still like Haro much more. I think he was a good player on a bad team last split. I think Haro really did play well. Like, he looked very good in there. Even in some of their losses, he like was one of the only reasons why the games were close. So I like that. Their question mark in the top lane, it's like a 2 quarterbacks, no quarterback situation with 2 top laners. I think that Crazy is better than Holder. So I want Crazy to be the starting player. Wuming and Ruby. Let's see. When Wuming was playing, they played Silas, Zoe, LeBlanc, Zoe, Azir, Galio. So Galio is a good champion. Galio, Silas. So that'll be interesting. When they make a decision on who the starting mid laner is going to be, that might change who I'm interested in. Like in a specific matchup, not for a season-long bet. I don't think that Rogue Warriors are going to be competing for a title. I just don't. Zwuji was okay in their victories, but it's like if you can't play the early game well enough to have a consistent lead or at least make the game very close and then like coin flip some of the dragons and coin flip some of the barons, then you're not going to be in a championship position. So Rogue Warriors, good in underdog spots. Need to check who the starting jungler and mid laners are. Actually, who the starting top jungle mid are each matchup to know whether or not you want to have any exposure to them. That is interesting. RNG. So, like we said before, RNG got rid of Longshi. They picked up Cryan. I feel like there's a 0% chance that Cryan is better than Xiaohu. I'm a big fan of Xiaohu. I still think he's a very good player. Especially now that Orianna just got a little buff again. I could see Xiaohu pulling out the Orianna. I think that they'll... People want RNG to be good. That's the thing. So Uzi's retired. Betty is going to be their AD carry for the foreseeable future. XLB was playing Kindred. That's a benefit. Playing Elise. But they were losing. They lost to EDG. And that was okay. That's not great. Especially when you get that. Were they like banning out Graves? They let Graves get picked against them one game. I guess they prioritized Kindred over Graves. Whatever. Not a huge deal. RNG. Plus 1,700. This number is inflated because they're extremely popular. I think they might be the most popular team in China. Played a lot of Kindred, but didn't win a lot, which is scary. Uzi retired. Longrain Betty. Longshi's gone. The new top laners are New and 705. They got Betty, so I don't think you're getting rid of Xiaohu. Like that would maybe be something where like they get rid of Xiaohu. Xiaohu goes to a competitive team, and then that team is a sleeper. That's something to watch out for. Because maybe they think like Cryan is a little younger than Xiaohu, and they like a few of their pieces in a couple of years, but like not right now. That's always like a scary thing in like pro sports when the teams start like giving up on the current season to play for the future season because they're convinced that one of their players is really good. But like unless Cryan becomes better than like Knight and Duanbe, then what are you really playing towards? Like Cryan was not the backbone of E-Star. Although he was a member of the I've Got Something in My Eye lineup with Cryan and Wink. So that makes me feel a little sad that they're not together anymore. I can't use them in an almost perfect lineup together. I could just to do that bit again, so maybe I'll do that. Let's see. Suning. Bin, SFM, View is a new jungler. Angel, Huanfeng, Sword Art. Okay, so Suning is actually the type of team that would make sense in a summer split. And the way that you'd have to look at it is right before the Worlds patch. Okay, so it'd have to be like this. They have an easy schedule. They would need... Okay, so... Let's see. These are the questions to ask yourself before you want to make a bet on Suning to win the summer split. Do they have an easy schedule in the early season? If yes, move to the next question. If no, don't bet on them. Okay, so do they have an easy schedule in the early season? If yes, okay. Do the upcoming changes to the game allow for a team fighting style that Huanfeng can take advantage of? So on the most recent patch, on patch 10.11, we received the Zeal buffs, So that is going to help AD carries. So for AD carry centric teams, that could be a benefit. So while they're on the previous patch, I think they'll probably start the season on 10.10, which is more similar to 10.7. On that patch, you need a good jungler that can carry. So if they're in good matchups in the early season, then they'll get a few wins under their belt, hopefully. Then in the mid-season, they start moving towards the patch that actually helps them. So now they're in like a team fight meta where you can get like 2 or 3 items on your AD carry and then just scale the game that way. They have a good support player, so that also helps. Do the changes on 10.11 and 10.12 move meta towards ADC and team fighting? If yes, then go to the next question. Are Suning one of the best team fighting teams in the league? So in order to make a bet on Suning at plus 7,000, like I like them a lot more than I like Billy Gaming, OMG, Dominus, Rogue Warriors, LNG, V5. Like I like Suning more than all those teams because they have a playstyle and an identity that they might actually just luck into being very good. So that makes them fundamentally different from a lot of the other teams because they're willing to play like to protect the AD carry team compositions, and those team compositions have a way of being relevant right before the Worlds patch because Riot likes having like different team compositions as viable options during the World Championship. So you'll have some teams that are doing like 1-3-1 and split pushing. You'll have other teams that are using carry junglers. You'll have other teams really focus on the mid lane with the jungle mid duo, and hopefully you'll have other teams that are just trying to scale to the late game with something like a hard carry AD carry. Normally there will be one of those styles that is better than the others for some reason, but if like a more talented team is playing a weaker style, they can always outplay their opponent. So it's a little bit like rock paper scissors, but not that simple. Is my window open? Whatever. There might be a bird flying into my room shortly, so that's kind of freaking me out. So Suning is interesting. I'll give him that much. Team World Elite, another very interesting team. So Teacher Ma moves to starting roster. Yimeng leaves for academy roster. Shanks is a mid laner. They have 3 mid laners again? Oh my god. This is so annoying. I think that it's such a huge mistake to do stuff like this to your team, in my opinion. I like Morgan. I like Beishang. I like Teacher Ma. I think once they made the transition from Plex to Teacher Ma, they were just a much better team for DraftKings and for real life and for betting, and I like them. They're a fun team. I think that I like them. It may seem like I like them less than other teams because I understand how popular they are in DraftKings because of their playstyle, but I do like the team, and I like the champions that they pick. So I hope that their roster stays the same as it was from the end of the season, because this patch is similar to that one. So and like they really leaned into their playstyle. They had Teacher Ma on champions that could engage across the map. They have global ultimates. They really started to play well around that. So Beishang and Teacher Ma good together. Morgan didn't have a lot of carry opportunities last season, but that might change next season. Like, because if the mid jungle duo plays better or more consistently for a longer period of time, that'll open up the options for Morgan to kind of carry through the top lane. And then bot lane was Zhao Meng, right? I could have just saw at the top of the screen. Yeah, Zhao Meng and missing. So they're fine. Can Zhao Meng hard carry games? That's a good question. So for this, I would say roster questions. If same roster from the end of the split, I'll be playing them on 10, 10, 10, 11, re-evaluate on 10.12. Because there, so I guess that's a good thing to explain is like certain patches make minor tweaks to the game and other patches like attempt to fundamentally change the game. And 10.11 brings Zeal changes, which may drastically change things because of how popular champions who use Zeal items are. It won't be like a game breaking thing because it's only like 2% movement speed on a couple of Zeal items or all the Zeal items, and then also health buffs for the 80 carries. So those things in combination would have to make 80 carries and hyper carry compositions be out of control, and it might actually happen because there are a lot of enchanter supports that are very strong. There are a lot of enchanter items that are very strong. So even just from like an item perspective, we may be forced in that direction, but there will always be the opportunity for like tempo teams to remain very strong. So yeah, Team World Elite. I like Team World Elite. I will be looking to use them. It's tough to get leverage over the field when playing them though. I need a tissue. I'll just get through the end of this. Okay. Top Esports. There's nothing to say about Top Esports. They're a good team. Everybody loves them. Everybody loves Knight. And I'll be I will be targeting them. I will be targeting teams playing against Top Esports because you're going to get huge leverage. The ownership of the teams playing against Top Esports should be low, and I would never bet plus 195 for a team to win the split because going into the semifinals and the finals, you're going to get pretty good numbers anyways, like in the minus 100s. So all you really have to do is make a larger bet around that time, and you're probably better off from like a time money perspective. And you could also do some like parlays to get some additional value. But for Top Esports, you really want, if you think that they can win this split, you want them to be bad in the beginning of the season. Let everybody else forget how good they are, and then jump on them. That's really the only way you're going to get value spots on Top Esports. I would expect them to be overvalued for most of the season, so that's why contrarian bettors are going to be picking against them often. Because if you hit like 50% of the time, then you're making like at least 10% of your money. You're making 10% in value. Because I do think the market is going to be protecting itself against Top Esports volume. Vici Gaming. I love Vici Gaming in general. Koma is a great coach. Not necessarily good for DraftKings players, but for real life and betting on games, he's a good coach to attach yourself to. At the end of the season, they beat FPX 2-0. Interesting. Beat V5. That's not impressive to anybody. Lost to Rogue Warriors. That's not great. Kiana game. Jesus. So iBoy is there was a lot of talk about iBoy being the kind of AD carry that you could build your team around and kind of have him be a carry. But I think that it's overstated at this point. So Lung Maokai becomes inactive. So they got Leon. That's not a huge upgrade. Um, plus 4,300 is probably not even good enough, like for a value bet on them. This is similar to Sunning. They're like, I think Sunning is a better version of Vici Gaming now. I'm not betting on Vici Gaming. Vici Gaming will be a middle of the table team that beats bad teams but loses to all the good teams. So look for spots where they beat several weak teams in a row, then bet against them when they play even competition or are the underdogs. Because what's going to happen is, like, you're going to see them win their last 3 series, and then they're going to go against a good team, and they're going to be, like, plus 200, and you're like, how can Vici Gaming be plus 200? They're killing everybody. And then they just get blown out of the water by a good team. So that's that. And then Victory 5. So Victory 5, I guarantee they win a series this split. So they've made a ton of changes. Right? Allies leaves. Bu joins. Wei Wei joins. Did they both come from the same team? Let's see. Yeah, so Bu came from Sunning. Wei Wei also came from Sunning. And then Sam D is a new guy. 19. There's just something about Victory 5 that I love. Like, it's not healthy. I'll probably lose money on them, but V5 is the kind of team where the book is going to be begging you to bet on them, and I will be betting on them. So yeah, I think we're gonna find some spots. That's what I'll say. Because I do like CLX, I do like Mole, I do like Y4. I think that all 3 of those players and Xiaohan, like, that combination has shown the ability to win some early games, and they play like a super volatile Invictus Gaming kind of playstyle, and that's why I think everyone hates them, is because they're a not as good version of Invictus Gaming that tries to play like Invictus Gaming. Because even when you are Invictus Gaming and you're playing in these highly volatile states, when you lose, people just want to kill you. But Victory 5 helps create these high kill score games, and that's going to be something that we want to be betting on and against in DraftKings. And then on the sportsbook will want you to bet on V5, so you just got to bite the bullet and do it. I will not be betting on them to win the championship, but book will need them often. So that's about it. Do I want to change the tiers? I guess I could. So we'll do top three. We're gonna do the Invictus Gaming. They're gonna have their own tier called Public Hates Them. So I'm gonna like them. E-Star is overrated. middle of the pack. EDG is middle of the pack, and they're probably not overrated. RNG is overrated, middle of pack. LGD, they could be good. So the best case scenario for them would be top of the middle. Team World Elite, I could see being top of the middle. I think there's some upward mobility there. Vici Gaming is middle. Billy Gaming is low end of middle. OMG, low end of middle. Top end of the middle. I like Sunning more than most people, I think. Maybe not. Dominus, low end of, maybe just low. Low end of, their best case scenario is low end of middle. Low end of, Rogue Warriors, I'd say middle. I think they could get to the middle, because I like Haro a lot. Like, I would rather bet if it was Rogue Warriors against Billy Gaming, I would want Rogue Warriors to win. So that's my answer. LNG is low end of middle. Low end of middle. So then let's reorganize this. So let's see what this looks like. 2, 3, 3, 3. All right, so let's do 17, 17. And then we'll start separating. Top of the middle, top of the middle, top of the middle. And this is by the end of the season. This is not like throughout the season. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. And then this doesn't seem fair, making them the same as these guys. So let's just so let's do top esports FPX JDG is the top. Then we have IG, yeah, and then LGD, World Elite, Sunning, value teams. So these will be the teams that I'm looking for value when they're playing the other middle of the pack teams. Overrated. So we have E-Star, RNG. 4 is E-Star, RNG, so overvalued. Then we have EDG, Vici, Rogue Warriors, So I guess so. This would be value in the middle pack. It's tough to like have words that explain that. So V5 LNG, and then we have Billy Gaming OMG. Dominus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so basically, the way that I would like have this set up and make sense is that I think that teams can move like one tier above or one tier below, but anything outside of that would be relatively surprising to me. So I could see Top Esports, FPX, or JDG being the champion or underperforming, but not being anywhere close to like an LGD, World Elite, Sunning, eStar, RNG in terms of like talent, future prospects, performance at World Championships, all that. So maybe for this, maybe by the end of the season, the standings looks a little weird and some of these teams are higher. But if all of those teams played in the playoffs, I would still have it somewhat similar, barring whatever we see during the season. And then, yeah, Invictus Gaming. I could see Invictus Gaming returning to form, being at the top of the table again, competing in the playoffs. I could also see them backing up a little bit, being like a low seed in the playoffs, and then I'd still want to pick them pretty regularly in the playoffs. I know that there are a lot of people saying that like people are just picking Invictus Gaming based off of previous performances, and they're not even good anymore. But in reality, I think if you watch the games and you see how volatile the games are, and you see the play style that they're trying to pull off, I think that it's like the high kind of upside that if when it clicks and like just goes out of control. So that you can't really teach that. Worst case scenario is they have to kind of pivot away from their current play style and be a little bit more regimented, and I think that's probably worse for their long-term prospects, but it might help them win a few series or a playoff series or something like that. But that is not, they're not going to be able to compete on an international level playing the same style as everybody else. They need to have that thing that makes them unique. LGD, World Elite, and SNG. Now, I don't think that any of these teams could really win the championship, but I think by the time we get to the end of the season, we're going to be pleasantly surprised with how good they've played. Like I said, LGD, I love Peanut. Kramer's okay. He's very good at Senna and like in that supportive role as an AD carry. But once they start playing the upper echelon teams, I think it's going to be very difficult for Peanut to outplay everybody. And if it gets to like some kind of carry meta, I don't like Kramer in that kind of meta. SNG is the opposite of World Elite, kind of, where if it does turn into that kind of hyper carry meta, then I think Sunning will outperform everybody's expectations. eStar, they did great last season. I don't see them replicating that this season. Who knows, maybe they do, but I don't think that like changing Cryan is going to revolutionize their team. RNG. So Uzi's gone. They're still a very popular team because of how good they were in the past. They got rid of Long Shi. Their new top laners are like a side grade at best. Probably a downgrade in many ways. They still have Xiaohu. If Xiaohu goes to another team, I'd love to know what team he goes to. I think he brings some value to that team. I think he's still a very good player. EDG, they're still kind of another team that's living off of name recognition. Scout is not a top mid laner in the LPL, and Scout is not otherworldly or anything either. They're good professional players, but they are not able to compete with the upper echelon teams with those guys as their carries, unless there's like some kind of crazy shift in the meta and one of them has a good pocket pick or something like that. I just don't see it. Vici Gaming, I love Coma, but I don't think that they're going to be able to compete with the top teams because of talent discrepancies. Rogue Warriors, I love Rogue Warriors because they have Haro, and he plays a great carry jungle style, but on the team as it's currently constructed, I don't see them being able to compete long term. Maybe they can surprise some people during the season in a few spots, but I don't think they're going to be consistently great or anything like that. Billy Gaming, OMG, and Dominus. So Billy Gaming and OMG are more similar to each other than Dominus. I think those two teams are like a little more consistent. They're not extremely volatile. They're more cerebral with how they play the game. If it gets into a hyper carry meta, I haven't seen any of their players prove that they can play in a hyper carry meta, but maybe that's better for them because it's lower, like a lower volatility game style. So the ability to think through the game is actually somewhat helpful. The ability to understand the macro game is pretty helpful. But I don't think they're going to be competing with any of the top teams. And when they play against a team like Vici Gaming, Rogue Warriors, RNG, LGD, World Elite, Sunning, like you're going to want the teams against them to win in real life, but not necessarily to win on DraftKings. Dominus is not very good. V5 was horrible last season. Anything is an improvement over last season. And then LNG like basically stayed the same. The only roster change they made was like now they're using their sub 80 carry, but I don't think there's enough around him to make a huge leap in the standings. So that is my LPL breakdown. That was an hour. That took a surprising amount of time. But again, like I will be releasing another video getting into Friday's games. This was just something to like kind of look back at, like when we get to the halfway point in the season. So let me know if there are any other kinds of content that you want throughout the season. I'm going to have a daily video that goes over the previous day's games, some of the DraftKings stuff, and the games of that day or the next night, every single day during the season. And then I will do some other things like weekly power rankings or weekly positional rankings. Maybe that'll be one video. And then other than that, I'm going to start looking at the other leagues once we have more concrete information on when they're starting. And that's about it. So thanks for watching. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe. Check me out on Twitch, Twitter, blah, blah, blah. Until next time, I'll see you later.